Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, in order to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
To the people in the huts and villages of half of the globe struggling to break the bonds of mass misery, we pledge our best efforts to help them help themselves, for whatever period is required. Not because the communists may be doing it, not because we seek their votes, but because it is right. If a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich.
To that World Assembly of Sovereign States, the United Nations, our last best hope in an age where the instruments of war have far outpaced the instruments of peace, we renew our pledge of support to prevent it from becoming merely a forum for invective, to strengthen its shield of the new and the weak, and to enlarge the area in which its reach may run. Let both sides seek to invoke the wonders of science instead of its terrors. Together, let us explore the stars, conquer the deserts, eradicate disease, tap the ocean depths, and encourage the arts and commerce.
In your hands, my fellow citizens, more than in mine, will rest the final success or failure of our course. Since this country was founded, each generation of Americans has been summoned to give testimony to its national loyalty. The graves of young Americans who answered the call to service surround the globe.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
But what does all this really mean? In order to find out, we asked the people with the answers, the people of America.
I think it's our obligation as Americans to take and give back to our country in any way of service that we can.
How has John F. Kennedy influenced my America? Oh man, now you're really getting something big. I was just a little guy when he was president. And I was maybe 6 years old when he was assassinated, and I remember that being an absolutely huge thing. But I also remember around my house we had his inaugural address framed, and so in my bedroom on the wall was his inaugural address, and so it was very inspiring about American ideals, the possibility of what government can do, and then also shared sacrifice for your country for a positive thing. So how has he influenced my America? I think he is an anchor still for idealism in America. You know, the country's kind of become a little less idealistic, much more materialistic since then. But Kennedy is still the anchor for what's possible. You'll recall with President Obama, he talked about Kennedy quite a bit, and we sort of, I think, look at President Obama reflected through the lens of John Kennedy too.
Well, he influenced my life in several ways. I was in the Navy during the time the Cuban blockade occurred, and so I was messing in my britches, worried about going to being in a big problem there. And a second way was by creating the Peace Corps. Had an opportunity to work in South America myself some, and I had a good friend that joined the Peace Corps in Costa Rica. So big influence.
What do you think is the American identity? That's a really difficult question. I think the American identity, it's very hard to say because there are just so, I guess I might talk a little bit more about the American experience, which is just simply people from all corners of the world and cultures coming together and participating in this democracy.
American identity is to be an individual. We don't all have one identity. It's to be unique, a bunch of individuals who work together rather than some like communists who want everybody to be the same and work the same. We're a bunch of individuals that just happen to work together and become a team.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. What does this quote mean to you? Hey, that is my favorite question. I love to think that we all are such a good country because we are workers. We like to produce, we are innovative, and we are not afraid to put forth the effort. And that is what makes us different. And that is why we can do that for our country. And actually, not so much for the country, for each one of us, for our communities, for our families, for our own responsibilities.
It means to know that there's something bigger than yourself and to be willing to sacrifice for that. If it's going to be for the betterment of the country, of the people around you, then you should be willing to make some sort of sacrifice to help them out.
It means that as individuals, we all have a stake in the outcome of the country and the future, and so we should be participating in that, not necessarily saying, all right, what can it do for me, right? But how can I participate to make it a better place?